So I'm a little bit disorganized today for various reasons pertaining to sick children and the end of the college semester and a puppy and all that stuff too. But on the agenda, I'll try to remember here to send the link to you guys again if you don't already have it for opening up the agenda. But on the agenda, Judy had a late addition of some concerns with county funding for the project to install shoulders for the remainder of 299 going toward the ridge. So we'll bring that up. And then I contacted a few contacts today regarding bike ped, so we'll get to some of that too. Let me first just throw into the chat the link for our shared folder in case anybody wants to follow along. There we go. So why don't we start? Oh, the first thing, I only added it recently, but want to try to be official and formally approve the minutes from the previous meeting. So any objections to approving the minutes, they're at that link. If you want to take a look at them, or if you just want to trust and approve, that's fine too.
It is a little distracting.
Is it? Okay, I'll move into a bedroom. The only challenge with doing that is that I had two screens going here, but
Is your son in the same room as you?
No, we have lots of rooms in the house too. I just thought she was going to practice for a few minutes and be done. So yeah,
It's a beautiful night out. Maybe she can go outside.
I know. She's downstairs. I'll just go to a different room here. Just have to grab a power cord and then I'll be good to go.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to turn off my video for a second so you're not having to follow me all around. Okay. Okay, and figures that I think she might have just stopped right now as I move, but okay. Such it is. So it goes. Turn on some better lighting here. Okay, so the first item was what Judy brought up about concerns from the county about funding. Hey, Michael, concerns about funding.
Steve said he would join us on this, but
okay, so you want to hold off on that a little bit and see if he joins?
If he's not, yeah, I might give him a heads up because he said he was going to, and I think it would be, because this is now third hand, and he heard it from Aaron, and so okay, just let's try doing something else right now. Hey, okay. Michael.
Hi.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. So just popping up the agenda. One item that I didn't act on before today, but I did act on today was just writing up a short letter, to I haven't sent. I just sent a draft of it to Neil, but I haven't yet sent it to the village board and the town board. But a letter on behalf of our committee advocating a all stop where the new traffic light will be at Stewart's, at Henry W. Du Bois and North Chestnut, and requesting no right on red at North Putt and at Ohioville, I think was the additional place we had asked for. So Neil gave one suggestion, but otherwise said that the draft looked good and told me how to send it the most efficient way, which is just to send it through the two assistants with Kathy Preston at the town and Ariana Bosco at the village. So I will do that shortly. So that was one item that I took care of from our last meeting. And I know there was something else, but I can't even remember what it is right now. Again, it's been a crazy day. Sorry about that. So Michael, do you have anything on your radar screen that's been going on with BikePed to report on or to follow up on going forward?
Yes, with Michelle, we sort of, or she had put together a finalized version of the logo for the BikePed committee.
Oh, great.
And I mean, she sent it to me and said she was going to make a a refined copy and send it out black and white, and also I guess maybe a different color. But it looked fine. I mean, it was very close to her earliest iteration, which I thought was really sharp. And got that nice kind of sunset array of the striping from a crosswalk and the 4 cardinal points being pedestrians, wheelchair, bicycle, and it looked good. I mean, it's I think it's eye catching, and so that's done. I also had a call into the Kingston's Complete Streets regarding trying to do go to DOT to get that the ending, the right on red in those locations, because they too have a number of locations where that would apply, or where they would like that apply. So I have not heard back yet from and the guy that's the head of their new Complete Streets is a retired DOT guy, so I thought he would be useful. So those two things. I mean, I apologize. I just was just underpowered for very this whole month. And
Are you feeling any better? Because it sounded like
not much. No, I did the whole doxycycline for 3 weeks, and I expected a great result. And I also got tested for all these other weird things too, like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. And
the tests are useless.
My blood looks good.
Yeah.
But Lyme is something that can really hide. And
yes,
the blood test is not good. I mean, it's the most widely used tests are just testing for an immune response protein. It doesn't really test for the Lyme, the Borealis.
I know.
Bacteria.
I went to the hospital after 5 years ago, after numerous Lyme tests that came out negative. And I was in the hospital for 3 days before they finally got a positive test. And they wouldn't give me the doxycycline because the tests weren't positive before that. Mystery illness.
Not like completely positive. It's like, you get 7 out of 10 on a certain scale, and it's like borderline. But the doctor did treat it. And anyway, I started reading a bunch more on Lyme, and it's kind of terrifying to read it.
Yeah.
So I won't bore you with the details, but if you want a very good book, I can pass it along to you.
Yeah.
So that's sum total. Actually, I did follow up, Judy, your thing about getting that information on 299 and a paved bike lane. That actually came up there's a thing called the New York State Association of MPOs, and they have a BikePed working committee that meets quarterly. In their last quarterly meeting in December, they had asked DOT for parameters for estimating costs of paved bike lanes on roads like that. And so DOT is supposed to get back to them.
Yeah, listen, Steve O'Shea is the person that I learned this from, and he learned it from Erin, who was writing an article.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be along. He just sent me a text that said, "I'm sorry, I'm running late," but he's going to be here. So
okay, good.
I would like you to bring that up when he's around.
Okay, so that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Neil, do you have anything going on your radar screen? If you're not if you're on the call, I'm not sure.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Neil.
Not much. We're still waiting for DOT approval for the Henry W project. There's been some holdups, legal easements and stuff like that. Is just not to get too much in the weeds, but I think we've got them all solved now. The village has an easement from Stewart's. They've had that on that property for decades, but because the town is doing the project, DOT was like, well, that doesn't count just because I have it with the village. It's like, well, with town and village, you're working together. Village can add us to the easement. And they're like, oh, well, no, that may not count. You may not have to go through the regular process, which could add who knows how much time and how much money. And so we're like, well, look, Stewart's, the town and the village all are in agreement. Let us do this. And they're like, well, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. So we're going back and forth, but it's just.
Who are you dealing
right?
with? Who are you dealing with at the DOT? What person?
Whoever is in charge of the real estate. That's the other problem.
Lance
There's a million
Gordy.
different people there.
Real
No,
estate?
it's someone. Yeah, because this is, it's a right of way issue. We submitted what we think is, we finally asked them well, give us text for the easement, and we submitted it today. But it's been held up. We've been going back and forth for a couple of weeks on it. But it's just that's an update. It's just frustrating as anything. Dealing with DOT all the time. It's add it to the list, right?
Well, I'd like to see it have a face and a name, because we're certainly in a position to put some pressure on an individual who is holding things up because they don't think it's.
Well, it's in now. I think we're good to go. Yeah. We'll hear back from them. We're trying not to push too hard, because if you push too hard, then they just dig their heels in and say, hey, rules are rules. And then, we're trying to get them to, we're trying to convince them that, this is a better way to do it because it's cheaper, faster, and easier, and all the parties are in agreement. And so we're trying not to, push too hard. But that's just the update. It's everything is slow. We thought we were going to hear back from them in January, and we're still waiting on this.
I think the record of the DOT is that if you don't push hard, they'll just take as much time as they feel like. It's been going on for years and years and years. Anyway, and if he digs in his heels, maybe we could get 20 people to call him up and say, get your heels out of there. Something. I mean, they want to wait till somebody gets run over on Du Bois. Not good.
Yeah, well, I mean, it hasn't really set us behind yet. We're still kind of on track, to get the bids out this summer, and start in the fall and be done hopefully by the end of 2022. That's the timeline.
Right. Okay.
At the end of 2022.
I think, off the top of my head, I think that's, something like that. Yeah. I mean, the goal is to get it started this year, though. But we're still waiting to find out what the for what DOT thinks of the plan that was submitted. That was presented to. I think a lot of you were maybe at that meeting back in, what was that, September or something like that. We had the public meeting on Zoom. Kind of presented that plan, then we presented it to DOT. We're still waiting. So things get held up, whatever.
We've been working on issues that the DOT can stop action on for years and years and years now. And I have no patience with them. I think they just don't consider this of any importance. It has no priority for them. And, I don't think that we should be intimidated by them. you know?
I mean, I think it comes across as frustrating in that way, but it's also just, it's a big bureaucracy, and in good ways and bad. And some of the good ways are that they have procedures and rules that are there to make sure that they're pursuing their mission. It's just part of the problem is we're not entirely in agreement with their mission. So it is what it is. But we, with the Henry W. Du Bois Project, we have professionals with Alta Planning who are doing their nudging, and they know how to leverage. So it may feel like DOT is just being evil and enemy, and I'm sure there's some truth to it. But it also seems that it's a ship that's kind of slow. It takes a lot to slowly turn the ship into a new direction. So
Yeah, well, the iceberg's right ahead.
yes, indeed. And on that note, first of all, welcome to Hans and to Steve. Glad you both can join. We were waiting for Steve to join to shift gears to the seemingly, speaking of the iceberg being straight ahead, our frustrations with the seemingly perpetually delayed project with shoulders on the remainder of 299 to on the way to the ridge. So Judy was eager to have you join to fill us in. So if you have any information,
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks to Judy for getting Erin Quinn to do an article, and she got in touch with the county executive, and what I know about this is only the latest is only what I got from my conversation with Erin Quinn just last night, and what she told us is from Pat Ryan is that he's in touch with the Congressman Antonio Delgado requesting help with funding of the project. I guess he's saying that the county is short on the funds to complete the project. So he's looking to Delgado to help get some of that infrastructure money. And that's about all I know about it. Maybe we'll learn more from Erin's article, which should be coming out this week. Is there anything else, Judy?
Well, I think the question is, I always feel that that letters from citizens, besides letters from heads of counties and things like that, are important. So if I think we should somehow be able to find out from Ryan what he's saying. What is he saying to Delgado? Was he giving specific figures? And we should be writing to Delgado ourselves. I mean, my experience is that even half a dozen well-written letters, real letters, can make a difference, and make a difference in the way people see an issue.
Yeah.
We do also have at least one inside contact there in the county executive, which is Lou's wife works there. I know that they're maybe in the process right now of moving to Saugerties, or maybe they already did just move, but he seems interested in keeping connected with us, even though they're relocating to Saugerties. So I could write him and see if he knows anything more specific about the funding shortfall, because this is news to all of us, right? I was under the impression that the funding wasn't the issue, that the issue was all these right-of-ways, and working through the legal correct procedures to gain the easements, and then the shovels were going to come out. So it's totally news to me. And the infrastructure bill hasn't passed yet. I mean, it's it's a big battle. the latest I heard is that Joe Manchin is favoring the pared down Republican version of the infrastructure bill, which is like, I think more than 3 times smaller than the Biden proposed one. And you need Manchin's
No,
vote.
it's even worse than that, Dan. It's again funny Republican accounting, but they include a lot of the funding that's already part of the the infrastructure money, and so they add a little bit to it. So it's really only about a 15% increase over what they currently spend on infrastructure. Basically, it doesn't even count. It's window dressing.
I think that the state has some funding too, doesn't it? I mean, the state could help. I mean,
I think this
like Cuomo was the single biggest pusher for the Empire State Trail. The Empire State Trail is going right through. There's going to be cyclists from the Empire State Trail who will be trying to get up 299. They need some protection. And it seems to me that we can appeal to Cuomo. I mean, letters like that to Delgado, to Cuomo, to our representatives.
I mean, I would first like to just confirm that that's really the case, that that the county is short on funds to complete the project. If it is, I imagine it's pandemic related budget austerity.
Did Aaron say when the article is coming out?
Level.
I think Aaron said this week, so that would be tomorrow, Wednesday evening.
Yeah, usually I get the electronic version, a PDF of the entire newspaper, and then the next day I get it comes in the mail. So it's probably by early afternoon tomorrow, if it's in that edition.
She had to submit it last night, I know, by 8 p.m. Yeah.
And is Dan Torres still working in Pat Ryan's office?
I don't know.
I think he is. I mean, that was one of the issues with him running for re-election here at the town level, is that some said there was a conflict of interest, that he was working, elected in the town and also working in the county administration. So yeah, I can.
Yeah, he is, but he tries to he tries to stay away from issues like this,
Okay.
that, conflate his town and county roles for that
Okay.
exact reason.
Okay. So
It's not like they've started on something that they just need as a completion. They haven't got it off the ground. The truth is, they haven't gotten off the ground. All they've got there is they've got that inadequate 3-foot, sort of pieced together thing that was done after Gabby got almost killed, and since then, nothing. So. They say they're trying to get approval from the people along the way, but what have they been doing for 5 years now?
So Judy, your request, your suggestion is that a bunch of us should write the county executive.
I think we should look at it. Let's see what Aaron writes. And I think we really have to, take a little bit more action. I mean, if they're saying that there's money factors involved, that is not what they have told us up to now. It's been strictly engineering. We have to do the engineering stuff. We have to get the approvals. We have to get the people along the way. They haven't said a word about money. And I don't think that we are regarded, the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, the bicycle community, I don't think we're regarded as allies. We're just a thorn in their side. And I'm tired of being a thorn.
They being the DOT, or they also being the county?
Well, the whole establishment. No, I think that the county people who are doing this, I'm not saying Ryan particularly, he's got a lot on his plate, but I think that the people who've been dragging their feet for all these years are, they're not interested that much in doing this. They're really not. We've been trying to be a partner in some ways, and they're just sort of patting us on the head, and it's all being taken care of. Okay,
But if-
I'm just getting very, very skeptical. Maybe I'm just too old. I don't know.
We'll see what this article says and try to get,
Yeah.
get to the accurate story. But if it is as it we're hearing, it sounds like our county executive is trying to go to bat to get some extra funds and taking
Yeah.
it to the higher levels.
Right.
And it's in line with what I've been reading about him, trying pushing a county level Green New Deal, and it seems he's he seems he's committed and taking some aggressive steps within his powers. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
But well, Delgado is important too. I mean, if he's reaching out to Delgado, that's a good thing, because Delgado has another election coming up, and he would, he wants people to support him. And if he's actively involved in trying to get us money here for this trail, it should be brought to his attention by a lot of people. And we have a big mailing list. Just because people don't come to meetings doesn't mean that they won't do something. So.
Yeah, I want to just say that I already wrote to Delgado, even though I don't really know what exactly Ryan is asking for. I think I get the gist of how he's thinking, that there is, a potential source of money to help with this project if this infrastructure bill is passed on the federal level. And maybe he just wants to make sure that some of that comes to us here to help the county construction of this project. And so I didn't refer to Ryan at all. I just said that if there's any way that that you could help, speaking to Congressman Delgado, send some of that money that will be coming from the infrastructure bill to help complete this project that was promised, almost 5 years ago, that it would be really appreciated. So I just wrote something up real fast and emailed it to him today.
You might want to think about writing Schumer too, since he's from our state and he's the most powerful player in Congress right now. And he's been, he came and did a bike ped event up at Henry W. Du Bois, where it was actually supporting it was supporting a grant that we ended up not getting, that Neil and others applied for, if I remember right. You can correct me, Neil, but he was there to give a little stump speech in favor of improving bike ped safety on Henry W. Du Bois and in New Paltz in general. So we could remind, put a reminder and a thanks for him, to visit us. I think it was on Earth Day. I can look up what year it was. I would say I know Peter Kaufman was still alive. It was probably 5 years ago, I'd guess. But it might be worth writing him too.
Yeah. Right. Delgado is still fairly new, in the job.
Yeah, I mean, Delgado has the advantage that, he's representing a small district, where not small geographically, but just, it's not the whole state of New York, and Schumer is very focused on the entire country. But he does have some, he is from New York State, and he does have some ties to this area. So getting it on his radar screen wouldn't hurt.
That's a good idea.
And maybe writing it, sending it to one of his offices in the Hudson Valley, so it gets the instead of his, just sending it just to him.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly where his nearest office is, but I'm sure there's some in some of the river towns. He must have some Hudson Valley offices where you could reach a staff person there and hope that they bring it up the chain of command.
Okay.
While I remember, Neil, if you don't mind us we can come back to this if we remember more things that we want to bring up. But while I remember, Neil, have you heard any updates on any of the possible routes to where certain landowners, like I believe his name is Jim Johnson, or the Ferrantes at Wallkill View, have kind of been approached about possibly opening up some of their property to safer ways to get to the fairgrounds. Have you heard anything about any kind of development, private developments like that, about potential trail expansions?
Nothing. I would. I also probably wouldn't hold our breath on those anytime soon. I think what I've heard, OSI and the Ferrantes, the Ferrantes used to do the farming on the River to Ridge part down below, but because they use pesticides, OSI did not want them to use pesticides, so they don't farm that section anymore. So now I think who knows if it's true or not, but they probably do not want to have a trail on their property now, because then they may not be able to use pesticides. So that's probably this is my own guess. No one has said anything, but my guess is that probably not going to happen anytime soon. And John Johnson, I don't know what's going on with that. That's probably a long ways away too.
We can dream, but yeah, it's too bad that, because I know there's some good ideas that have been initiated, and we have so much momentum with River to Ridge and the Empire State Trail that it would be great to see the tentacles continue to expand.
We do have a very large bike interested mailing list, don't we? Like several dozens of people on it.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
And I think that, once we have more of the facts, I think reaching out to that mailing list and giving them specific things to do, people to write to, in their own words, I think that's it. Oh my heavens. I think that's a tactic that we need to explore, that we need to make use of. Makes a difference. And they don't, they're used to hearing from politicians and so on, but if they hear from, 20 constituents on the same theme, that makes a difference. Okay.
Neil, I know it's more of a village issue with Tim and others, but have you heard any updates on trying to get funding secured to do the overhaul of the rail trail, that section through the village? I was on that committee that
I guess I should give you an update on that. That is kind of the new thing. So that's the rail trail is getting redone this summer, basically from Craigswood all the way to Sojourner Truth Park.
Wow.
New surfacing. It's
Great.
using money left over from the Empire Trail. It's not going to cost the town and village anything. They're not going to really do they're going to follow the plan that was put together for that village section, that the county did, that I forget that planning company put together. But it's going to be, if you go up to like Rosendale, or if you go to, they've already gone as far as south as Craigswood. You can go stand on Craigswood and you can look north and you'll see what the new trail surface looks like, and then you can look south and see what the current one does. But we're going to get all new, basically a new surface, stone dust, pavement in some places, like at road crossings, just so it's like handicap accessible and stuff. But if you want to see what they're going to do, they're going to do basically what they've done up in Rosendale, all over Kingston.
I've been up there. I've been up there every Thursday afternoon for a Hebrew school, outdoor nature Hebrew school that my daughter does up at the Rail Trail Cafe area, and it's really beautiful. They've surfaced it really smooth, and
it's happening very quickly because basically that same company, GPI, is just going to keep going. you know, they got some extra money from Greenway. They put it towards that. Same company is just going to keep plowing all the way down to New Paltz. They're going to do it this summer. So there are going to be times when sections of the trail are closed. You know, people are going to be upset, but, you know, we're also getting probably, you know, if I had to guess, I'd say, you know, close to $1 million worth of work. You know, $750,000 just handed to us, which is pretty amazing.
You said it's from Empire State Trail funds?
Yeah, they've had some money, you know, that projects that couldn't be done, a little bit left over here and there. And, you know, that is now, you know, it's like when you, if you've ever done any work on your house, you know, you paint one room and then all of a sudden the other rooms look really shabby. Basically, they just fixed up the other rooms in their house, and all of a sudden the New Paltz section looks pretty shabby. You know, with crossing issues and drainage issues and, you know, line of sight issues. You know, the pavement in the village, you know, we've known that's been a huge problem for years. And so they said, well, it's the Empire Trail, and so they're going to fix it up for us. So we won the lottery, basically.
Yeah.
And
Is it going to be the same width as that northern section from Craigswood? It's like about 12 feet, I think, is what they paved it out, right?
That's the plan. Yeah, I think, you know, in some places they can't make it that wide, just because there's, you know, steep slopes or something. But, you know, they're going to come through with the engineers, and I think they're going to make it, you know, the standard is like 10 feet. Every once in a while, they'll, for short distances, you can narrow it down to 8 if there's like rocks or something. But for the most part, it's probably going to be, you know, 10, 12 feet wide, the whole length of like new stone dust. So
remind
great.
me, you said earlier it's from Craigswood to where?
To Rockwell. I mean, the new one?
Sojourner Truth.
To Sojourner Truth.
That's the Empire Trail section. You know, technically the Empire Trail section is really just from Henry W. north, but because there's a parking area, one of the parking nodes is at Sojourner Truth. They're going all the way to Sojourner Truth. So, you know, we got lucky that is where they ended up choosing to have the parking area. They were looking at a couple different spots. So we're getting a lot of work done for free, which is great.
Here's to that.
Neil, can I ask you, at Coffee Lane, there were places there's like stones at the town?
Yeah, that was, you know, we were having problems with parking, two people parking there. We were asked to make that a no parking area. And we did, and then the signs were stolen twice. And so the highway superintendent put rocks there.
Okay.
That are, they'll move them later on. I haven't had a chance to go out there and look. I'm not a big fan of the rocks there. I don't think it's a good solution. I think, you know, some people have complained saying that they don't think they're safe, that, you know, people couldn't run into them. You know, I appreciate if anyone on the Bike Ped committee can go out there and take a look and give us your thoughts on that, you know, I'd appreciate that.
Where is this again?
Coffee Lane.
Coffee Lane. It's just like maybe half mile north of Springtown Bridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been up there, but I don't even remember it.
Yeah, there was a house removed there right at the end. It's
right after Copper Sea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good landmark to remember it by.
Hold on.
I mean, it's not the final solution. Those rocks are going to be moved, and I think they're probably going to have to move them for sure when they go in and do the work on there. We don't want that to, you know, affect the work, and then we also don't want, you know, putting those rocks back and forth. I don't want to damage the trail once we do this work on it either. It's not worth it to me.
Well, that's a great development. I know there were some other aspects of the proposal.
We haven't really announced it yet. We're probably going to do, I know this is probably being taped and it's on YouTube, but there's probably going to be an official announcement sometime soon, hopefully. I probably shouldn't have even said anything. So it's out of the bag now, but so try not to broadcast it too widely yet. But we should be announcing it soon.
What? We should be announcing
Those
what?
improvements to the trail.
Ah, okay. Okay, I didn't realize that's what you were speaking about.
And there were some other parts of the wish list with the proposal that the firm, I'm forgetting what the name of the firm was, but there was some proposals for maybe an amphitheater at that near the La Stazione, or this is just the trail.
This is just the trail, like work on the trail to make the trail safe and usable, so. But it's a long way. It's a good first step.
Yes, absolutely. It's another nice benefit of the Empire State Trail coming through our town, that you get some of these windfalls. Also, while I remember, I'm trying to remember what development I'm thinking of, but I know with the McDonald's, there's a major improvement, and I haven't looked carefully, but I believe they finally fixed put in curb cuts so that people on bicycles or wheelchairs can now safely traverse that section of the sidewalk. Am I correct about that?
Yep, they did. Yep, that was the last, I think, I'm pretty sure that was the last non-conforming section on that side of the road. I mean, the other ones aren't great, but, at least they're kind of there. They're not like as good as they should be, but that was the worst one. They finally fixed it.
Great. And this wasn't something I kind of thought about it when it came up a few days ago, and then it completely went off my radar screen. So I might have a little memory burst in a second, but it was either McDonald's or it was some other renovation in New Paltz, where I was wondering, why why aren't there bike lanes or bike racks being installed as a term of the conditions of getting approved to do the renovation? The McDonald's is an area that I will, over the long haul, be paying a lot of attention to, because my wife's business is the former Chamber of Commerce building right next door to it. So it's just, but she's mostly working remotely right now, so I'm just not over there very much right now. But does anybody know if they put in? I know they put in an EV charger, which is kind of shockingly beautiful to see an EV charging station outside of a McDonald's. Our world is changing, but
I think the code requires that they put in bike racks and EV charging stations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. Has anybody been by there to notice if there are bike racks installed in the front or the back of the McDonald's?
Yeah,
I'll try to remember to take a look again, since I am. And ask my wife to take a look when she's at work next. What other renovations are going on right now?
The other thing that it's on the radar, it's still pretty early on. It's going to be a couple of years, but you'll probably be hearing more and more about it. There's a proposal by Mike Moriello. His family owns Apple Hill Farm. There's a proposal, if you know where the name of that apartment, it always escapes me, the Bellaterra apartment complex on 32 South. So his family owns that property behind that. So he has a proposal. Right now that's in the town, but his proposal is to annex it to the village. And so the town board and village board have to vote on that and approve an annexation. At some point we'll do that. But after it gets annexed into the village, and the village planning board will be in charge of, taking control of the project. But his proposal is to build several hundred units. It's not student housing because you're not legally allowed to build housing and say it's only for students, but it is essentially for students. It's marketed towards students. They're, 1, 2, 4 bedroom, like little condo units, and they're rented out by the room. So you or I are unlikely to go rent a room where we don't know the other 3 people that are going to rent there, but students are more likely to do that. But we're going to be several hundred units. But you won't be able to see the elevation is go out there sometime and look. There's actually a house back there that you can't even see already. But these are going to be 2-story units. The roofs of those units are going to be at the level of Route 32, so they'll mostly be down below grade. So you really won't see most of them. And the one when Tim and I met with Mike Moriello, our kind of one stipulation for this of granting even our own personal approval was that there be a connection with a bike path between the apartment complex and the university. So there'll be a connection through the back of this complex into the tripping fields, out where the student, where the soccer fields, practice soccer fields are way out there. So that's the proposal, but that path will be open to the public. So it'll be, and the path will run around the apartment complex too. So it's kind of adding to the trails in town. If people want to ride out there, that I think that it's a good thing. It's nice student housing. It fills a need. It also lets them walk or ride their bike. It's not that far actually when you cut through the back. So that's you'll be hearing a lot more about that probably over the next couple of years. But that's I think it's a good thing. It gets people out walking around. It also gets people off the road. So there'll also be a shuttle service between this development and the SUNY. But that's that's kind of the latest. I don't know if that's the one you were thinking about, Dan.
It's not, but that has been on our radar screen in the past, partly because of our former chair, Bill Weinstein, living in the neighborhood, that Harvest Hills neighborhood.
Yeah, I talked to Bill a lot about this. Bill tried to get Mike Moriello presented this to the neighborhood. Mike also developed that neighborhood, and sold all these people their homes. So he wants to be on their good side. He presented this to them. They kind of were pretty opposed to a connection from their neighborhood to this to SUNY campus or to this path at all. I think it's short-sighted on their part. They're worried about students, wandering around their neighborhood.
Which is so
whatever.
Unlikely. Why would students cause trouble?
Exactly.
At the best, they would just want to be taking a peaceful walk, and that wouldn't be.
This sounds like the early opposition to the rail trail.
Right.
People were saying, we're going to get robbed. People that will have access to our backyards and so on. And now, if your property is adjacent to the rail trail, you can charge a lot more when you sell it, and that's obvious.
I think they're going to regret it. I really do. And we keep telling Mike that. Mike, don't close the door on this entirely. If you could leave it open, I think that people are going to, at some point, they're going to be like, oh, I really wish we had a connection to that, because it basically will give them the ability from their neighborhood to, yes, you have to cut through campus, but I mean, campus, it's nice. I like walking on campus.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and
It's a safe way for them to get into town.
It's a largely off.
a year from now,
route.
a year from now, that's going to be the only place you don't smell weed everywhere, because it's going to be legal to smoke weed anywhere in town except on campus. So if you want to get away from the smell of marijuana, you got to go to campus.
Right. When do you think is a key pivotal time to try to mobilize the neighbors in that neighborhood to not close the door on a great opportunity?
I mean, I told Bill, I think Bill's kind of working on this, because Bill really wants that connection. He gets it. And I think as the process moves, further along, but Tim, Rogers also kind of gets it too. This one possible route is that, and it may just happen anyway, is that, you kind of need, two access points to a big development like this for safety vehicles. So it may end up being just like, 58 South Manheim, that connection to Cherry Hill.
The Ridge Apartments?
The college the Ridge Apartments.
Yeah.
So just like there's that blocked gate, and it lets, they can open it for emergency vehicles, that may be the way it ends up. But, this is still like a long ways off, but I do think that hopefully as the plans, get further along, that the door does not close permanently, because I for one like having as many of these access routes as possible. I think it makes it easier just for people to get around.
Yes, absolutely.
That's kind of all I got.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because I know a few families. One of them is Andy Willingham, who's the engineer for so many, who's kind of involved in many of the projects in town. And he lives in that neighborhood, and I know others who live in that neighborhood, and they're kind of younger families with school-age kids. And if they're the ones who are, I'd be surprised if they're the ones who are worried about drunk college students walking through their peaceful neighborhood. But if they are, I think they'd be pretty easily convinced to rethink. So, I
mean, I have drunk college students walking through my neighborhood.
Yes, you do.
And it's not the worst thing. It happens, a couple times a year at around 4:30 in the morning.
But they just wouldn't go like through Harvest Hills. It would be way out of their way. And
exactly. It's out of, like, they walk by my house because they're walking home from the bars to the dorms. That's not going to happen for these guys.
Exactly. Yeah. Another item that just came across that I just kind of remembered, that's Bill used to bring up back when he was chair. It's kind of in some ways more of a transportation implementation committee, which is now dormant, issue, but it was about kind of expanding access so that vehicles, but also bicycles, could kind of go from one business on Main Street to another without having to come out onto Main Street. What was the term for that? Access roads, is that the term for it? So that, for example, you could go from McDonald's to the Plaza Diner to Tops without having to come out on McDonald's.
I pushed hard for that one. When McDonald's was doing their plan, we needed to, they said, oh, we can't do it because the people who own Tops didn't want to do it. And they eventually, they went out. We couldn't force them to do it because we don't have it. That law is not in the zoning. It's in the new zoning that we did for the Gateway area. I think it's called interconnectivity or something like that. It's that you have to connect parking lots that are adjacent to one another. And so going forward in the new zoning that we have for the Gateway, that's part of it. We don't have it in the old zoning. But we tried hard. But I agree. I think it's it would be really nice. I mean, go out and stand in the Tops parking lot and stare up at McDonald's, and there's like this footpath. You know, I call them paths of desire. You know, like people walk it all the time, and it's not safe. It would have been so nice if they had put in like even just stairs. I know that's not handicap accessible, but it would have been so much nicer to let people, you know, walk. But no go. We couldn't get to, you know, but they both said we're not required to do it. And I wanted to put a clause in there, and the attorney said, no, you can't do that. That, you know, they have to agree to leave a spot open. So if the adjacent landowners ever came forward with a proposal, we could then require it, and we'd have like this already signed agreement, but we couldn't even do that.
And I'm still trying to jog my brain, and that's a bummer. Thanks for doing your advocacy on that front. I know that was something that Bill and I think also Gale Gallery were, you know, trying to push over the years to get. It's good to know that the zoning is in there, is in the books for the Gateway District at least. I'm still trying to remember another. Is there construction somewhere else besides McDonald's and Stewart's right now in town? I remember I was driving somewhere in the town or village and thinking, did we miss the opportunity to force bike racks to be installed in that, you know, with that renovation? Am I forgetting? Is there some other renovation of a business where that either did or should have come up? Don't think too hard. If I'll in my driving through town or biking through town, if I see it, I'll bring it up at the next meeting.
I mean, it's a good point. I'll ask about at the police and court building, and I don't see why we wouldn't have bike racks there, but we should make sure that we put them in.
Yeah.
The bike racks at the post office, which waited for years and years before we took action on it. Most of the time I see them, bikes are making use of them. And with ShopRite, they accepted the bike rack. So I don't think that there's a lot of opposition to bike racks. I mean, it brings customers. I think they just have to be asked and maybe given some advice on the best kind of rack. That's all.
Yeah, we just have to use the leverage when we can, when there's major renovations going on, because otherwise it can be hard to convince us. Bike racks are cheap, but there's other things like when I, you know, for the previous 10 years lived in the Cherry Hill neighborhood, there's a clear need for a sidewalk on the Cherry Hill Road portion of Pasquale's. And there's not one, which is fine most times of the year. But when there's big snow piles and you've got a dog or a baby, and you're trying to walk safely from Tops into True Value or your neighborhood, it's dangerous. But trying to, I imagine it's not the easiest thing to convince Pasquale's to pony up expensive concrete, sidewalk in that stretch. But the next time they do some big renovation, then you pounce and try to convince them that has to be a term of their approval. So yeah, I'll try to, if I remember, I'll bring it up at our next meeting about what, because I know there was something, and I don't think it was McDonald's that I was thinking of. Shauna and Hans, no pressure at all, but is there any, since you guys are new, is there any kind of thing you've been noticing in town where you would be wanting improvements on bike safety?
None that you haven't already mentioned, but if
Okay.
anything comes up, I'll either let you know or wait till the meeting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's just we're, a bunch of us have kind of been on the scene for many years. So sometimes there's oversights where there's, we're just kind of used to looking at what we're used to looking at, and sometimes fresh eyes from recent folks to move to the area can help. And just, having the benefit of like living somewhere else where you're, see things done better. So yeah, if you ever have that kind of insight or idea, don't be shy.
There's nothing specifically I can think of except for I've come across a number of potholes from just winter plowing that just kind of popped up on routes that I usually take. And I'm sure that's just a village thing that has to eventually hit those potholes that, unfortunately got done during the plowing season.
Neil can chime in if to say anything different, but my experience has been that in our small town, squeaky wheels really can quickly make a difference. And sometimes it's, just you as a resident communicating the danger of the potholes and specifying which ones can lead to a very quick remedy in our little town.
Yeah, because in terms of people getting hurt in the future, if there's a record of something, not just oral, but a written record of they're being warned, it makes a difference. So a letter, I mean, a phone call is great, but I think a letter is important. And then followed by phone calls on everything.
Yeah, I can definitely document the ones I've come across. There's one on Plutarch that I've hit, and then not hit, but seen. And then can't remember the other one. It was either Ohioville or North, but yeah, I'll definitely document those.
And Neil, would that be something where to just email directly to Chris Marks, or who would be the best person to write directly about potholes?
Chris Marks, I think my mic's going out, but can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Highway supervisor in town of New Paltz. Just send them to him. That helps. And then one more thing, but I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but if you guys listen to podcasts, there's a really good one called Strong Towns. It's about planning. And there's a good one recently it's called Dangerous by Design, about how roads are, exactly what we've been talking about for years, is that they're designed basically just for cars. And they've kind of ignored bikes and peds for years, but, this person gives a really nice explanation for it. And it's kind of a fun listen to, and I recommend listening to it. And then the other ones are pretty good too, but it's a good podcast. It's all about planning, and it's really bike ped centric. A lot of it talks about how, like Dan was saying, that things are probably changing. But it's taken a lot of work, and it's going to take some time, but it's a pretty interesting podcast. I talk about how, we started designing the highways, and they made them, straight, and so people could go fast. And then without really thinking about it, they just said, oh, well, it works really good on the highways. Let's do the same thing for these local roads. And what they've done is they've made these roads, straighter, and people drive faster. And they talk about, it's very unintuitive, but traffic deaths increased during COVID, and while traffic was down. So you would think, well, that doesn't make sense. Traffic is down. Why did deaths increase? And it's because people were driving faster because they could drive faster. And they were driving faster because the roads let them drive fast, and there was no more congestion because there were fewer people on the roads. So people were driving as fast as the roads allowed them to drive, which meant that it was actually more dangerous. The thing that was keeping people from getting in accidents was the fact that there was traffic jams. So it's an interesting podcast. I highly recommend listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
I just put the link in the chat because I got curious and thought I'd dig it up before I forgot. So you can just click it and then you'll have it. But I'll put it in the minutes too for later. There was something else I was going to circle back to that we, from past bike ped. Past bike ped monitoring. What you brought up, Hans, reminded me of some dangerous gutter grates, stormwater grates. Some of them seem like they've been improved over the past few years, but I'm remembering one in particular. I think when you're going downhill, going west on Main Street, I can't remember if it's like by Grove or by South Oakwood, but there's one grate where DOT, I assume it is, keeps building up and building up more layers of blacktop, and the grade is like, seems like it's like 4 or 5 or 6 inches below the level of the road. And if there's a car kind of not giving you enough space, and you're on a skinny tire road bike and you're flying down Main Street and you can't swerve to the left to avoid it, I mean, you could fly over your handlebars, I would think, with that kind of a grade. Is that in the purview of Chris Marks, or I know DOT, big stretches of Main Street are run by DOT.
That's state DOT, but that's definitely something that is well worth mentioning to them. This, I think, is exactly what the bike ped is supposed to be advocating for. I mean, a lot of these people never get out of their cars, so they don't even know that that's an issue, and they don't think like a bicyclist would. I think that would be a really good thing to point out to DOT and say, hey, this, go back, check it, take some pictures, write a letter saying, this needs to be addressed. Totally.
And who is the contact to send that to a DOT?
I don't. Have you guys written anyone else in the past? Is it? I mean, if we send it to someone there, they'll probably send it to whoever it needs to be sent to.
Another person.
We can try to track down.
Don't count on it. Don't count on it with the DOT. That it will get to where it's supposed to go to. I wouldn't count on it. I think that we
send that one into the town. Send that one in when you send that other letter to the town and village. Send that along as well, and we'll forward them both.
Yeah, Neil, I would still like to know who you're dealing with at the DOT, because we do have sympathetic people there who have been able to make changes and move people. And, there's so many people there who just sort of fly on their own. And it's easy for them to just table something because they think something else is more important. So I think
I don't think they've tabled it yet. I mean, by the time the next meeting of the committee comes along, we'll probably have a real answer. And if things aren't moving along, I'll certainly be asking you guys to kind of get the pitchforks out. But I think I'm pretty confident that it's moving along. It's just it's a bureaucracy. Like they want to make sure that they follow all the rules. A lot of these are pretty complicated, federally funded projects. And so, we've had to deal with already 7 or 8 different agencies. I can't even keep all the acronyms straight, but, historic preservation, the DEC. There's so many of them that you have to get approval for all of these different things. And they got to look at the designs. And it's crazy, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, but Neil, like Mike Reed, are you there, Michael? Are you
Yes,
still
I am.
there? Yeah, Mike, I don't want to quote you wrong, but you've done a study of DOTs around the state, and our DOT is one of the most backward as far as having any kind of attention to the needs of cyclists as against automobiles. Is that a correct summary of what you've learned in your research?
Well, I'll quote Dennis Doyle on this one. He says, NISDOT is primitive and Region 8 is Jurassic.
Okay.
Actually,
so yeah, go ahead.
New York State DOT right now is revising a couple of chapters of their design manual. And I just came across a reference to it in a federal piece of work. So I'll see if I can find out anything about that, where they are and what they're doing. But in general, they were supposed to be adopting the national standards of AASHTO and NACTO, which are the two state and city transportation official recognized manuals. And if you look at those manuals, they're actually very good on bike pedestrian infrastructure and have great.
You know who wrote those manuals?
Pardon me?
You know who wrote those manuals?
Alta
That's
Planning.
why we hired them.
Yes.
They're the best in the country.
Yes.
That's why we hired them. And that's why they're doing such a great job on, I think so, on Henry W. Like they are, I guarantee you, if we had hired any other engineering firm, we would be getting a plain vanilla project that would have been, cutting edge, 30 years ago, right? But I think instead we're getting what's going to be cutting edge for the next few decades. Like, I am very excited. And I really, the engineers for Alta are amazing. They're so good at what they do. And they've worked so hard on this project that, and a lot of it is because they know so much, because they wrote these new standards. They're like really out there, the best in the country. So Dan has seen their presentation. So,
So you're saying, Michael, that that NISDOT is adopting, or Section 8 is adopting those standards finally?
Well, that the state is supposed to adopt them, or at least that was what they had last said. And those 2 chapters or whatever in their design manual are being rewritten. I have not seen. I had a call into somebody recently and would like to find out. So maybe by next meeting, we'll have some information on that.
Well, that's promising. Neil, anything else going on? Is there any updates with Trans Hudson up at North Putt and Maine?
I've heard nothing. I think they went to the county planning board, but we're kind of out of the picture now. The town board is. It's really up to the zoning
Board of Appeals.
The Board of Appeals and the county planning board. So I don't know what's happening there.
One thing that occurred to me when in the discussion about McDonald's finally became compliant and with the sidewalk cuts, one of the things that the DOT has said why we can't have a crossing, pedestrian crossing at the bus terminal going across to the other side, was that we don't have facing cuts, sidewalk cuts. Did not ever seem to me like an insuperable obstacle to get those cuts done. And if McDonald's has done it, maybe it can be done by the folks at the bus terminal. I mean, they have some sort of cut there, I think, and there are cuts on the other side.
The service station that's right there, right across from the bus station at Prospect, that has been completed. That was the DOT's obstacle or objection, was that there was no actual curb there, in fact.
Yeah.
And
And
now
now there
that's
is.
right.
well done.
Yeah. Well, I think that we should be revisiting that, because that is a hazardous crossing. I mean, there are a lot of people that come in on the bus and then cross the street, or cross the street to get a bus. And it would be really helpful if there was, I mean, we've done so much research on this, and I don't think it's something that should be dropped because of just the issue of curb cuts. But there again, the DOT is very, very anxious to avoid doing anything. And it's the excuse they've been using for years and years, that they don't have the opposite curb cuts.
Neil, is that a job for Tim to write DOT and say, hey, we have an update now, Sunoco, I think it's Sunoco is the company there now. They now have curb cuts at their corner, so we would like to propose a crosswalk again now that hurdle is.
Well, we could always ask again. The last time Tim and I met with Sandra Jacobson, this was maybe a year, had to be a year ago, because I think we met in person. But we were, there's programmed money on they call it the TIP, for pedestrian safety improvements along Main Street in New Paltz, but it's not for, it's like at the end of this TIP. So it's in I think 3 years from now. I think it was like maybe 2024 or something like that. So, they said they're going to be doing improvements, but, it's programmed a couple of years out. And I think that's we should ask, but that's probably when it would happen if they, if it's gonna do it. But it never hurts to ask and keep reminding people, hey, we want this, and when are you going to do it? And so you don't want to fall off people's radar.
So
Well,
would the
that's-
proper procedure be that that we ask Tim and you, or just Tim to contact them, or do we do it ourselves?
I mean, it's in the village, so I think it would just be, you could ask Tim, village board to do it.
Okay.
Let's do that. Let's do that
So-
then. That's not, we don't have to move the earth for that.
Right. Okay. So we'll get on that. Anything else on anybody's mind in terms of sections of our village or town where it's worth our time to try to nudge and push for improvements? I'll send that letter soon to the village and town boards to try to ask for support with getting more all stop or no right turn on reds at some of the traffic signals in town. And I'll look the next time I'm by McDonald's to see if there were bike racks installed. When you do go around town, just keep looking to see where if there's needs for more bike racks at any establishments, especially any ones that are doing renovations. And then we'll see what Aaron Quinn's article has to say when it comes out tomorrow about this worrisome development of funding shortages for that project. Yeah, I know this Mike Moriello apartment proposal, it's kind of formerly it was the Park Point proposal, but now it's kind of a new and revised proposal in a not identical plot of land, but very nearby it. So we'll keep following that. But as Neil said, that's something over the course of a couple of years or more. So if anything else does come up between now and the next meeting, just be in touch and we'll make sure to throw it on an agenda and follow up on it. We're doing fine, I think, for turnout during the pandemic. One thing, Neil, has there been any conversation about kind of whether and when groups like this can return in person?
I mean, it's up to the group, really.
Okay.
There are other places other towns that are meeting in person. I mean, the CDC rules now allow it. You may have to wear a mask inside, but you could always have an outdoor meeting. My own personal prediction is that the reason that we're actually allowed to even have these meetings is because the governor has suspended open meetings law. And so we can have these remote meetings. Otherwise, you couldn't do this before.
Oh, okay.
So that law has been extended till June 6th. He's been extending it for over a year now. If I had to guess, I don't think it's going to be extended too many more times. Everyone's eligible to get vaccinated now. By June 6th, it's going to be, 6 weeks away from when everyone was eligible to get vaccinated. I don't know. I think it's only a matter of time before my prediction is, don't quote me on it, but I'm preparing for the town board to have to meet again in person, sometime this summer, because I think we have to get ready for it, because once the law isn't, the waiver isn't extended, we have to meet in person again. So, get ready for it. It's coming.
Okay.
But if anyone wants to do it now, they can. No one's doing it.
Okay, yeah, that's good to have on our radar screen. I know I'm well past being fully vaccinated, and I would be open to, to meeting in person if others want to. So we can revisit that. We'll take it slow. There's no rush to return to in person, but we can kind of start having that conversation. But
I mean,
I
it's
presume
also in
we'll-
the summer. You can meet outside at meet at Hasbrook Park at the picnic tables.
Don't we have to do a live stream though, like we're doing here, or do we not even have to?
No, not once it's not, you can take minutes. You don't have to live stream it. Not
Okay.
all of our boards or meetings are taped or live streamed. I think you just have to have minutes. And they have to be, noticed and open to anyone who wants to attend. So you would just say, well, we're going to be meeting, at the picnic tables outside of Village Hall. And you just sit at the picnic tables outside of Village Hall or in Peace Park. Anyone's welcome to attend. It's open. Take some minutes. You can post the minutes afterwards, but I don't think you have to. Maybe ask Ariana if that's true or not.
Okay, I will.
Not. That would be if I were going to be meeting, I would rather meet outside. I'm still a cautious guy.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for filling us in on that. Okay. Well, it's just about 8:30. So we covered a lot of turf. Some of it planned in advance, and some of it just kind of on the fly. Digging up some old topics that we haven't covered in a while. So why don't we respect the timing here and sign off, and I'll get on with our beautiful evenings. At the end of every set of minutes, I have the remaining meeting times. I think every single one is fourth Monday. So our next one is Monday, May 24th, I believe. That is what I have. And what is that? I'm just looking right now to make sure. I think it's the weekend before Memorial Day. Yeah, so we're meeting on the 24th, and Memorial Day is the following weekend. So you can throw that in your calendar if you wish, on Monday, May 24th, but it's at the very end of every one of our minutes, which are both on that shared folder that I sent, that tiny URL link that I shared in the chat and share with every announcement of meetings. And it's also, if you go to our Bicycle Pedestrian Committee page on the Town of New Paltz website, past minutes are posted there. And so if you just scroll to the very end of any of those minutes, it'll list all of our future meeting times. So we'll sign off here, and I'll send you guys a message and Google invitation to RSVP for our next meeting in a month, fourth Monday of May.
Thanks for coming, Neil.
And feel free to keep spreading the word to any other people you know who might be interested in checking us out. All right, thanks all. And unless anybody has anything final, I'll end our meeting.
Good night.
Good night.
Everyone, good night.
Good night, Shauna. Take care, y'all.
Bye.